This is not love. And I'm saying this plainly right up front. That intense pull you feel, that obsession with someone who barely knows you or who does know you but doesn't want a relationship. That's not love, that thing you're feeling. It feels like love, I know, but it's not. It's something else. It's called limerence. And if you've ever been trapped in it, you already know it's not beautiful or romantic. It's painful. It's consuming. And worst of all, it blocks you from the real thing, from actually being loved. Now, people don't talk about limerence, but it's everywhere. It's in those friendships where you're secretly longing for it to become more. It's in desperate crushes that somebody else has on you when you are not interested, you're not available for them. It's in those endless obsessions that feel too big to ignore and too shameful to talk about. And the scariest part, if this is happening to you, well, most people in limerence truly believe they're in love. Now, when you're in limerence, your mind lies to you. It tells you, this is the most important person in the world. They are the only one who can make me happy. There's a reason I feel this way. It means we're meant to be. The strength of how much I obsess on them is a measure of how great this love is. But none of those are true. What's actually happening is that your nervous system is trying to heal something. Limerence is a kind of projection. It takes a stranger or a casual acquaintance or someone you're not even dating, or maybe an ex, and it makes them the imagined source of your wholeness. And it's like your brain is saying, if only this person loved me, this person I have no control over, who is not me, I would finally feel okay. And where does this come from? Well, probably in childhood. When you grow up emotionally neglected or abandoned, your brain finds ways to keep hope alive. You learn to see love where there is no love, because as a kid, that belief may have been your only path to survival. When a parent is neglecting you and acting like they don't care whether you're okay, that's an existential threat to a child's whole self-concept. It's a distortion of reality, though, to project that out onto an adult in a romantic way. So here's what I mean. In healthy love, healthy, what is that? But it's not limerence, okay? In healthy love, feelings are mutual. You both know what's happening. There might be problems, but you're both participating. Now, there are exceptions. Let's say that somebody you've always loved is, and you're married to, they're in a coma, and they can't really love you back right now. You love them all by yourself. Okay, that's legit. That's love. It's love based on a real relationship. Or a relationship ends against your will, and somebody, a partner of long standing, leaves you, and you still love them. Okay, I understand. Although there's a healthy curve to finally letting go of that, because we can love a person, but that being in love where you're hoping for reciprocation from somebody who won't give it to you, like an ex who has left, that becomes limerence. So in limerence, most of the relationship is happening inside your own head. You're replaying what they said and imagining what they might say, or what do they mean by that? Maybe there's a hidden meaning. Spending a lot of time trying to craft the perfect thing that you could say that would simultaneously clue them in about your actual intense feelings for them in hopes that they'll reciprocate, but at the same time make it perfectly deniable that that's what you just said and meant, in case they don't feel the same way about you. Do you know what I mean? You try to play it both ways. So you're trying to tip your hand without tipping your hand. It's pretty crazy making, and it can go on for years. So in real life, this is called flirting, when you do it, when you first meet somebody, or, it's a little thing. But in limerence, the flirting just turns into this mental torture, gymnastic thing of trying to get what you want, reciprocated love, without getting totally rejected, which you kind of know is what's going to happen if you are open about how you feel, or you wouldn't be playing games like this. If you were pretty sure they felt the same way, or you thought they might, you'd want to tell them, somebody's got to do it. You don't want it to go on forever. Hey, I feel this way. Do you feel the same way? And it wouldn't be fatal to your spirit if they said no. And that's what happens. There's this addiction to hope that you can get that reciprocation, and a terror of the truth of how they really feel, because you fear, probably wrongly, that it would destroy your spirit. But it feels like it would. And that's how you know it's a projection from childhood, is because of that, like, it's like life and death. Like I just can't go on if they don't feel the same way. That is the feeling of a child who has been neglected. Okay. And that's that child. As children, many of us, when we were treated in such a way that we had to face the fact that our parents were maybe never coming back or didn't care, we came up with an imaginary world where they're loving us from afar. They just can't tell us. We love them back. We're waiting for them. And I remember when I was a kid, my parents used to break up and get back together a lot. And for a kid, a few months is a long time. So on more than one occasion, my mom would be at large for a few months, or my dad would be at large for a few months. My mom would take us with her sometimes. But I remember I had this bed by a window, this little kid bed. It was kind of high up. It had a little ladder, and it was near the window. And I would just sit there and look out the window and make a wish and make a wish. Daddy, come home. Daddy, come home. And that was so much of my childhood that it's not surprising that I had some kind of a projection, that a romantic feelings about somebody, I had to have it back, or I would die. It just like all hope was lost. There was nobody else for it. And you can just kind of see where that projection came from. But it's a total maladaptation, because if somebody doesn't want to be with you, they're an awful partner, right? They're just not, it's not a good pick. One core requirement of a good partner for you is that they want to be with you and you want to be with them. And then when two people want to be with each other, they get to move on to the next problem, is, can they handle it? Which in many cases, relationships don't last the distance, but you're not even in one in Limerence is the thing. Sometimes there's a friendship going on. Sometimes they're feeding you just enough kind of hope to keep you going, because maybe they enjoy the attention. Maybe they understand that's what's going on, but they're not, I don't know, nobody upsets the apple cart by just saying what's really going on. And that's the sign. That's like such a core sign. So, when you're pretending to be a friend, when you're hoping for more, when you're saying vague things, when you're having to get your hopes fed by imagining scenes of the future where finally they confess their love, or you're watching movies about, there are so many movies about limerence scenarios. They favor a little bit, like it's a little more socially acceptable for men to carry a torch and just always, it's got to be her. And finally they win the woman's heart. But, in real life, it's so much messier than that. And it doesn't usually turn out, but it's some sort of like core archetype of like losing the person you love and then getting them, or the poor pauper winning the hand of the princess, of somebody, totally unobtainable. There is some kind of core thing. It's not just a product of the 21st century. It's been with us a long time. You see it in literature and pop music. That's one of the things I'm going to tell you, by the way, if you want to get over limerence, is stop listening to that theme. Don't watch that theme. Just like go ahead and say, I'm in recovery. I'm abstaining from this theme of unrequited love so that I'm not activating this thing that is functionally an addiction. When you're fantasizing about how it could be, when you're hoping for a text that doesn't come, or it comes, but it's just very ordinary, waiting for them to realize you're the one. And then, okay, this is when limerence is escalating. You start stalking their social media frequently to just see, what are they posting? And, oh no, they're with somebody else, or they've always been with somebody else, but they seem happy with that person. Then the limerence progresses and you'll start to think there's a coded message in that post that's just about something they did the other day, a barbecue or something. There's a coded message in there, and I think it's meant as a dog whistle to me so that I know they feel the same way I do. And then hope comes up, and for 3 days you're high off of it, but then the high wears off, and then you get very depressed because you're not really getting fed with that fantasy. Is this familiar to you? The emotional ups and downs and ups and downs. It's a cruel pattern, okay? So it goes like this. You meet someone, you feel what they call in limerence literature, the glimmer, and that's when you're like, something, this person, you may not be thinking this consciously, but you're like, this person could be my next limerent object. Like there's something so special about them, so mysterious and unobtainable and wonderful that just lights you up. And a lot of people talk about that. They feel like they're brought to life. They feel like the world comes into color for them. It's as if some lost aspect of yourself connects with you again when you're around them. And who wouldn't want to have that all the time? Okay, so I'm just going to warn you right here. It's like, does that mean that it's a part of yourself? I don't know. They always say that. I think there's a lot of, I tend to be skeptical and iconoclastic about old truisms about the psychological meaning of things. Is it true? I don't know. I think it might be just the feeling of being loved when we have a very distorted and undeveloped concept of how we would get that and what it would feel like and what would be the signs that it is that and is not that. I think childhood trauma does leave us with a little bit of like a Swiss cheese concept of that. There's holes in it. It doesn't quite hold up. It creates problems for us. That's my theory. But some people are like, no, it's a part of yourself and you need to just discover yourself. Hey, I've got a quick invite for you. I made a free daily practice course that shows you 2 simple techniques to calm the storm when you're triggered inside. It's short, it's powerful, and it helps you feel clearer, more focused, and more at ease, fast. Click the second link in the description section below, or use the QR code right there, and you can start your course right away. When I went through Limerence, I would say that advice was totally unhelpful and just kind of baffling and made me feel like something was extra wrong with me, and that I was just like, I don't know. I have a lot to me, but if I could get it from myself, I would have done it by now. But it does point to there's a way that we can be activated. We can be activated by other people. And I don't think that that's silly. I think that we have chemistry with other people that does activate us. But what is it that activates us? And especially what activates like romantic love? If you were neglected as a kid, if you were abandoned, unfortunately, there's a little bit of eroticization of neglect and abandonment. So it does sort of activate your falling in love chemicals just because somebody doesn't want you. Am I making this up? I don't think so. I don't think the science is very clear yet, and it's conflicting, but that's my opinion. That's my opinion of what it is. You can put in the comments what you think it is. The glimmer, though, is when something first flicks on and you're like, oh yeah, this person above all others in the room, you know, I like them. There's something here. And then it doesn't happen at first, but it does. Then it does, because it sort of gives you this nice feeling, and because there's a little bit of an addictive relationship to that feeling. At first, it's just like, oh, okay, I had a nice feeling. I'm having a regular day. But maybe a day later, 2 days later, you're like, I think I'll think about that person again. Oh, it's so pleasant to think about them. Yeah, and it's activating you again. And when this proceeds for another day, another week, another month, you can be full on obsessed. It could happen quite quickly, really. It has no, constant timeline, but that's the thing. You feel the glimmer, you become obsessed. Then you realize they're not reciprocating. First, it seems like they are. Maybe they're kind of flirty, they're sparkly people, but they're not reciprocating. And then it can get quite bad when they say something. They may have no idea you feel that way because, of course, you're trying to play it cool. And then they say something, and then you're just like, it's like, whoa, they are totally in a different world than you, and they have feelings about somebody else, or they're, hoping to meet someone, and they just say something like that to you ever so casually, and it's just like, what? They don't feel the same way. So what do you do as a person who is prone to limerence? Boom, you just fly out of that reality. Oh, they're not into me? I'm going up into the fantasy level. And then you go up there and you just stay there like a little cat that's climbed up a tree and can't get down. Eventually, something breaks. Maybe they reject you. Maybe you hit a wall. So either they realize you feel that way, or you tell them. But either way, the evidence is right there in front of you. This is not going anywhere. So then for a little bit, you hurt, you grieve, you cry, you swear you'll never do it again. You want to move on. And then you meet someone new. If you have active limerence for somebody else still sort of out there, it's almost impossible to fall in love with somebody else. That is the problem. And falling in love, as much as we magicalize it and all that, it's a crucial part of how we form bonds. We fall for somebody. It's an important process. Because of trauma, presumably, that mechanism in us, it's there, but it's kind of misfiring. It's going off in the wrong direction. It's going to somebody who's not interested. It can't detect the merits of somebody right in front of you who actually is interested. So you end up, I'm going to think about the ghost. I'm just going to go marry the ghost in my mind. Eventually, most people will get over that particular person, but if you're prone to limerence and you haven't healed the underlying cause of it, then the glimmer is going to return with somebody else. And then the cycle starts all over again. And in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, good, this feeling. And, when you don't have that person, there'll be these periods of calm when you don't have anybody to obsess on. And funnily, productive things will happen. Your life will start to bear fruit. But that addictive response to the glimmer, that strange, we don't really know what it is in them, but it just activates this reaction in you that's like falling in love, but has this huge glitch in it where it only really works if you can't have them. And you, on some level, you've already clocked that you can't have them. And that's part of why it's so interesting, I think. It's not that you're weak or dumb if this keeps happening to you. It's that your brain has learned to interpret intensity as love. And intensity can include grief and love simultaneously, like when I was there waiting for my dad to show up, which eventually he came home, they split up. Then we moved to another state and I didn't get to see him much. And then he died when I was 15. So I think I got kind of like whacked by that. And it messed up my attachment wound. And he was like the parent who really loved me. But my mom had custody and she was the parent who I think she was not totally sure she wanted kids. So it was this psychological soup that kind of, put these glitches in my consciousness that made me attach in strange ways sometimes, starting from the very first, little 9th grade boyfriend I had. So if this is happening and this is your pattern, and intense feelings kind of hijack your whole falling in love mechanism, unless you do something to sort of break that pattern, the loop will just keep playing out. When it's playing out, it's not a relationship. It's a one-person show, basically. And it's so exhausting to keep it going. You're basically trying to avoid the horrible feeling of like, oh God, I'm alone and I'm depressed about it and I don't know what to do. That feeling, I think everybody on earth has it sometimes, but if you're stuck in limerence, you have it way too much of the time. Your life can get very sucked down by it, can rob you of years. And meanwhile, your actual needs for connection, friendship, intimacy, honesty, love, somebody to hang out with you on your birthday, that's not being met at all. And that hurts. That's like a really deep wound that's hard to face. Like, gosh, I don't have anybody like that. You'll feel it in harsh waves and they hit you hard until you can, grasp onto the life ring of that fantasy of whatever limerent person is current for you right then. And that fantasy comes and lifts you back out of the storm for a little while until it just dumps you back into depression. Now, limerence is something I do talk about in my book, Connectability. You will find a link to that down below in the description section or find it on Amazon. Anna Runkle's my name. I go into a whole bunch of hidden ways that we isolate and pull away from people. But isn't that ironic? That total attachment to the idea of somebody is actually a way of avoiding people, avoiding love. And, we're so illogical sometimes like that. But that's what trauma does. It just takes things and turns them a little bit in the mind. In limerence, the connection feels magical. It feels like a connection that's in a completely different league than whatever you have ever had with other people or your friends or the people at work. And that is what falling in love is like. But limerence is like, just take that and, put it on steroids. That electric charge when that person walks into the room, the flutter of hope when they text back. It feels like fate. There's a lot of thinking like fate, magic, forever concepts that will come into your mind. Because you need those. I'm not saying there is no such thing as fate or forever, but that we have to go to this extreme level of permanence to justify the temporary reality being awful. And you see this a lot in the idea of twin flames that some people have. And they get so mad at me on this channel. I'm like, twin flame people, if you're really dedicated to twin flames, you're not going to learn anything from my videos about relationships. In my universe, people who are just believing that somebody who's not into them are secretly the other half of their soul, you're running away from reality and you're blocking yourself from happiness. Somebody wrote me a comment about this not that long ago that defended it and said, Just because something doesn't turn into a successful romantic relationship in the conventional sense doesn't mean it wasn't a profound connection. And I agree with you. There is a such thing as great love that cannot turn out. All right, that is real. That is real. So the part where it becomes a problem is when you can't be happy despite the impossibility, that you cannot move on, that you remain completely committed to a fantasy idea, a fantasy of being with that person. Fantasy, and a lot of people be like, oh, it's good, it's healthy for relationships. Not if you have this. You do not want to go into fantasy, and that's part of what recovery is just to don't go there, just hold on, stay here, stay in reality. Because if you're having an addiction that involves fantasy, and that can happen with other things too, like porn and, but definitely limerence, it just takes you right out. It takes you out of your life and out of the connection you need to have anything meaningful at all. And then you have to keep pursuing the, whatever it is, dopamine, the hope, the uplift that you get from the fantasy at all costs. And, you may find yourself outside sitting in the car so that you can keep thinking about the thing you want to think about instead of thinking about, oh, I have to go to a party and deal with people and I just don't feel good about myself and I don't know what I'm going to say. So fantasy becomes this escape from the reality, the real life that you actually have where good things can happen. Real life is the only place where you actually can be loved, by the way. It's not connection to keep thinking about what happened in the past or what might happen in the future. The past and the future can give you intensity, but not connection. And intensity is not love. So limerence depends on secrecy. You hide how much you feel. You hide the extent of your obsession. You try to act normal, like cool girl or nice guy, while your heart is just, every time you see them. You start avoiding other parts of your life, your friends, your goals, your physical health, your peace of mind, because nothing feels as important as getting close to this person. And all the while, you're not getting closer. In fact, you're risking coming off as scary or at least creepy to them. Have you ever had somebody get limerent on you? I have. I ended up having to call the cops. It was awful. They were absolutely convinced, that we were two parts of the same soul. And I would just get these bizarre emails, and sometimes they would impersonate women and say, oh, I met you somewhere, and I had this dream. I was just like, oh, and I knew who it was the whole time. It was actually quite frightening. I'm not saying you're like that. That person was quite far gone, although it didn't show at first. I'll tell you that, or I never would have been friends with them. But it's something to keep in mind, to be realistic, that even if you're acting cool, your vibe is dishonest. Your vibe is like, oh, yeah. No, I'm cool. We're just friends. Your nervous system is talking to their nervous system. So on some level, there's something very weird going on. I don't want to put you down or anything. I just want you to help you stay in reality and just be like, it's not. Limerence doesn't work. If you're really into somebody, you know what? Tell them. And don't do it if they're in a relationship, because that's just going to be upsetting to their relationship. That's not honorable, actually. If you think it's actually maybe going to happen, and even if you feel like it's life and death, trust me, it's not death. It's okay. It's when you get away from attachment to somebody you can't have, you just got closer to true love, but it's going to have to be with somebody else. It's going to have to be with somebody else, or you're going to have a very happy life for however long, not in a relationship, and you're going to get so grounded, and strong in that life that it doesn't scare you so much to fall for somebody and then realize it's not going to work out and step away. Like that, if that feels like life and death, you know what it points to? Your real life is too empty. It's crying for you to make it interesting and full of friends and fun. It needs you. Your real life needs you. So that's the distortion. This person, this arbitrary, well, they're not arbitrary. They might be quite wonderful. They could be amazing, but they don't want to be with you. So it can't be true. It's just literally not true that you would be happy because of anything they would do, because that's not who they are. That's a hypothetical version of them that it does want to be with you, and they don't. So it ain't them, babe. You know what I mean? Hey, it's me, and real fast, if you're watching my videos and wondering if maybe past trauma is having an effect on your life today, I want to share with you a list of signs that what you're struggling with now might be connected with neglect or abuse in your childhood. It's good to know this because it can help you know that what's hard for you right now is normal and that healing is possible. You can download my Signs of Childhood PTSD quiz by clicking the top link in the description section below or using that QR code right there. The cost of limerence is enormous. It's everything. You lose time, you lose energy, you lose your sense of reality. You might spend money on psychics or coaches or therapy sessions where all you do is talk about this one person. And even good therapists might believe that that would be helpful to you. But I'm just going to tell you, if you have limerence, in my opinion, talking about it is not where the answer is. It's, perpetuating the myth of this person being perfect for you is not the answer. The answer lies in come back to present time and what is in your life and making that wonderful. If you're in a relationship already, and yes, limerence happens to people who are already in a relationship or married, it will erode the connection that you do have. And it has ruined many a marriage, to be sure, in a very unpleasant way. If you're single, it keeps you unavailable. So a healthy person who has radar for is somebody emotionally available, they turn their radar on you and they're like, no, they are not. That, when you're limerent on somebody else, perceptive people, they can feel there's nothing there. So it can't really happen for you. And on the off chance that somebody really falls for you anyway, you might go, well, I might as well take second choice. And then what happens, right? That's not happy for anybody either. And it's not fair to the person. No one else has a chance for happiness when you're limerent and fixated on someone who doesn't want you. Nobody gets to be happy out of that. And the more you invest in the fantasy, the more hopeless and ashamed you feel. So people stuck in limerence often feel like they're going crazy, but you're not crazy. A very normal and healthy drive to find love is, misfiring. It is normal and healthy to find love. That's what humans are for, is loving one another. So when it's misfiring in a direction that gives you only pain, it's probably a trauma wound. Humans are made to love, and if the natural unfolding of that capacity gets hurt by neglect and abuse, isolation, ostracization in your past, the drive will keep going anyway. It's going to keep questing for love, but in a slightly wrong direction. So if you try to let go of the fantasy, it can feel unbearable and scary. You may feel depressed, immobilized, even physically sick. That's withdrawal, and it will pass. But it is withdrawal, and that's how deep this goes. So you might tell yourself, I'm not obsessed. This is just a crush, and there's no harm in thinking about them. And people will say in the comments, it's not a problem to have a crush. If you think that, you just don't have limerence, that's all. For you, it's not a problem. And for limerence, it's not just a crush. It's like something bigger than that. And so everyone wants to believe when they're engaging in addictive behavior that they can I can handle it. Tons of self-help books and even therapists will tell you that fantasy is healthy and normal and it spices things up. And if they try to tell you that this pain that's isolating you and keeping you stuck is normal and healthy, or they confuse it with a crush, I don't think they understand limerence. That's all. They might not be the right person to help you. You might want to revisit that choice of who you choose to help you and make sure they understand what it is. Because when you get validation for your obsession that, oh, it's just a crush, don't worry about it, it can feed your denial. And denial is part of the trap that can go on for so long. Until you call it what it is, limerence, you can't break free. The fantasy always promises that one day this person will realize how perfect you are. And one day they'll wake up and they'll just be like, oh my gosh, where has she been all my life? Well, the longer you wait for that day, the more you lose days of your life that could have been wonderful. So trust yourself. Something isn't right. There's a glitch in the part of you that loves and attaches to others, and it needs healing. Healing starts when you stop pretending this is love. You admit, I'm obsessed with someone who doesn't want me. You admit, this is costing me my joy, my peace, my self-respect. You admit, I'm using this fantasy to avoid something painful in myself. And that's the moment that things begin to change when you ask yourself, what am I avoiding? You don't need to shame yourself. You need to shift your focus on your true needs. And in the hundreds of limerent people that I've worked with and known and received letters from asking for my advice, there's almost always a deficit of connection with other people, any kind of connection. Limerence is more likely to kick in when your life is lonely, when you feel empty, when you're not having fun, and you don't have good people to hang out with. When you're anxious, like the holidays are coming and you're not really sure where you're going to be. Ooh, that's a vulnerable time for limerence to kick in. So that trauma wound in you starts to manufacture, again, this imaginary love, right? But when you connect with friends and groups, and I know that's hard for a lot of people who grew up with trauma, and it's extra hard for people who have been coping with feelings of loneliness by going into fantasy, right? Fantasies fade, though, when real people appear in your life. Loneliness is the toxin, connection is the medicine. But like a cat who's been taken to the vet for treatment, part of you is going to fight the effort and stress involved in putting yourself out there and connecting with people more often and in a deeper, more connected way. It's hard, I know. If you're going to do this, you'll need tools and you'll need people who know that this is a problem for you and that you're working on it. And especially, it's very nice if they're working on something similar and you guys can support each other. They can have your back, you can have their back. Some people do this in therapy, some do it in 12-step groups, and a whole lot of people do that in my membership program and courses and coaching programs. It's a place where people come together and support each other in setting goals and following through with positive steps on that. You crave love because you need love. There is dignity in that. Real, true romantic love, though, takes time. Companionship with new friends can happen more quickly. Start there. Friendship is love too, and with several friends, your strength is coming from multiple directions. Any one person can fall away, but you don't fall down. And it's then that you start to prepare yourself for real love when it does come to town. Real love isn't like limerence. It's calm, it's mutual, it's built on truth, not secrecy. Real love shows up. Real love makes space for you to be fully seen and accepted and not just longed for from afar. To have real love, you have to give up the illusion. You have to give up hope in the idea of love that you were so attached to. Because that was a ghost. It wasn't anything that could love you back. It had nothing for you, and it's safe to let it go. When you've released that idea of the perfect love person, then the whole thing that was blocking you and sort of keeping you in a little like yucky, miserable cocoon, it's set you free. When you come out into the light, everything that's possible for you, it'll feel uncomfortable sometimes, and you have to let yourself be uncomfortable for a while. You have to grieve the fantasy. But what comes next is better than anything you can imagine. It's not something invented. It's given to you. It's real. It's new. It's surprising. And it changes you in ways that you haven't seen yet. Real love is a good thing. I don't want you to have to live your life without it. It's real. It includes you fully, completely, who you really are, without games, without hiding. Limerence, that's not what that is. But you can heal. You can break the cycle. You can come back to yourself. And when you do, you'll discover something better than the fantasy. A life that's real and grounded and full of actual love, because you deserve that.